This is the creek that Alan will slowly and surely travel along later this coming week, en route to eastern England's coastal waters. For the journey north, Alan will need a lot of fuel, diesel of course, as it's amongst the least explodey of the common small boat fuels. And as luck would have it, I still have one of these auxiliary range extender fuel bladders from Alan's first days, owned by an expedition partnership I ran. This is the deluxe space-saving version and can carry 100 gallons, or over 400 litres. These were custom-welded JIC-6 spec nozzles we had built in so that bladder could be used to supply the engine directly, one for supply and one for return. The big central inlet is for filling purposes, using a large standpipe, and I'm blanking this off as it's rather unwieldy for our usage. Of more use is a smaller fitting to the side, and this valve that came with the bladder. I've changed over the hose tail to match the transfer hose I've bought, but it's a shame that this otherwise premium product doesn't come with fittings like this in brass or stainless throughout. You can see a little corrosion on the lever, even from storage. Anyhow, in it goes. A nice tight fit using the tapered American screw thread. I'm going to use this to both fill and empty the bladder using an inline pump. The bladder works by inflating and deflating, so there's less of the venting issue you get with rigid fuel tanks. We're currently up the bow, and we're now going to go down the bottom of the fuel racking. You can have a look down there. At the moment it's a bit of a mess. It's just that waterproof vinyl, and then some cardboard to stop things getting scratched, and then a whole load of rather unruly steel, a combination of solid square bar and some flat bar as well. So I'm now going to sort out this whole area. We're going to bolt down some ballast, and then it's where the first of the fuel bladders will go. You'll probably remember this from when I was making steel ballast bundles towards the stern end, but I've made a load of lengths that can be lifted with partial ease, wrapped with heavy-duty cling wrap, and bound the ends with duct tape. A quick clean out of the area, and this moment of intense cerebral demand reminded me that I do need a solution for edges and little gaps around Alan's interior, where dust, grot and grime has a tendency to collect. I'm considering absorbent industrial socks, which are designed for spills, as I could stuff them into the gaps as removable and replaceable seals. Anyhow, I finished hoovering and laid out all the bundles. Their substantial weight, and what is to come on top, is well supported by what is below, battens and structural grade polyurethane foam, and direct contact with the hull on both sides. Then a layer of closed cell foam pads. Finally, a brace of steel that can span the setup, and when secured, applies a uniform downward pressure across all the ballast. I've yet again deployed the riv nut machine for this job, as previously this would have been a case of drilling through both sides of the steel box section, and then with the very limited clearance on the other side, it would have been a pain to get a bolt through. Well done, riv nut advocates. Before I knew it, the brace was down, and applying significant downward pressure on the ballast. But, naturally, we can't just plonk the bladder down directly onto this, can we? The bladder is made from seriously high-grade flexible composite fabric set in plastic, but abrasion would be nightmarish with that much fuel inside. So I went back to the storage pile and found one of the protective mats. It's made specifically for the bladder, so I assumed it would be a little larger than the bladder footprint, and so would fit into the space on board. The fuel racking was, by the way, designed specifically to fit these bladders, but it turned out that they are significantly oversized, so it came out again for a little trim. Thank God for my extra large plasterer's set square, otherwise I'd never have got the corners square and the long cuts correct. The mat is now in place, and I'm chuffed with this job. I don't think it needs its own method of securing, due to the weight that's due to appear on top, but I will keep an eye on it, so spotting if any shifting takes place. The bladder itself can come aboard. They are originally designed to sit on upper decks as spare tanks, but should be just fine down there. One thing I have noticed though, is that when it's empty, it splays out into the walkway. I don't like this. Save for boxing it all in, any ideas for a simple containment measure for this expansionist bladder of mine? Finally though. This has sat in a bag for a few years now, but this is what comes with the bladders, and these are the straps. So this will go around either the standpipe in the middle or, as I've got in, a bung, and then you get 4 straps that end up with ratchets. And so you can then put them to 4 corner anchors and keep the whole thing down, because that's going to weigh getting on for 400 kilos when it's full up. So in a few days I'll pump a shed load of diesel into this tank, and of course into the engine's main tank. The latter has had some fuel in it for a few months, so I'll have some fuel treatment potion to take care of any moisture or bug. So, from the yard and the pontoon this pleasant evening, more soon. Bye.